Picture this. You are scrolling through Instagram and you see someone you went to school with. Nice car parked out front, designer watch on the wrist, four-course dinner at some rooftop restaurant downtown, and you think to yourself, wow, they are doing really well. But here's the thing. What if I told you that car is leased? That watch is on a payment plan. That dinner went straight onto a credit card that has barely got room left on it. And that same person has less than $200 in their checking account right now. Look, in America today, looking rich and actually being rich are two completely different skills. And a lot of people have gotten very, very good at the first one while completely failing at the second. Here's what most people do not realize. Wealth is not a performance. It is not a car. It is not a logo. It is not a caption. Real wealth is quiet. It is patient, and it does not need an audience. Today, we are going to break down 10 signs that someone is what I call fake rich. And yeah, some of these might feel a little uncomfortable to hear. That is the point. Let us get into it. Sign number 1. They wear their net worth. You know the type. Every outfit has a visible logo. Every accessory is a brand announcement. The bag, the belt, the sneakers, all of it is a walking press release that says, "Look at me, I made it, I'm successful." But here's what most people do not realize. The truly wealthy do not need their clothes to do the talking. Warren Buffett, worth over $100 billion, still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. He drives himself to McDonald's and orders off the value menu. No logo, no announcement, no performance. Now compare that to someone who just got a modest raise and immediately dropped $800 on a belt that screams the name of a fashion house they probably can't actually afford. That is not wealth. That is anxiety dressed up in designer packaging. And the numbers back this up. A study by Credit Karma and Qualtrics found that 48% of millennials have gone into debt specifically to keep up with their friends' spending habits and lifestyles. Nearly half, almost one in every other person you know, in debt for appearances. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When someone needs you to see what they're wearing, it's usually because they don't want you to see what they owe. Sign number 2. Everything is financed, nothing is owned. The car is leased. The furniture is on a payment plan. The vacation was buy now, pay later. And the watch? That is financed through some third-party app with a 28% interest rate. This is where it gets really interesting, because these people will tell you they invested in quality. They will say things like, "Oh, I got a great deal. Monthly payments are only $300 and something." But what they just did is sign themselves into a financial cage. They traded their future cash flow for a temporary image upgrade. Here's the thing. There is a difference between owning a nice car and renting a nice image. One builds equity. One builds debt. And most of the fake rich are renting everything, including the identity they show the world. And look, I am not saying nice things are bad. I am saying that when your entire lifestyle is built on monthly installments, you do not own your life. You are just leasing it and hoping the payments do not catch up. Sign number 3. Zero savings. Literally zero. This one is brutal, and it is more common than you think. According to the Federal Reserve, approximately 40% of Americans cannot cover an unexpected $400 expense without borrowing money or selling something. $400, that is not a car repair. That is not a medical emergency. That is a minor inconvenience that breaks people financially. And here's the cruel irony. A lot of those same people are spending money on things they absolutely cannot afford because saving is not Instagrammable. Paying off debt does not get likes. Building an emergency fund does not make the highlight reel. So they spend, and they spend, and they perform wealth publicly while quietly having nothing in reserve. And then one thing goes wrong. One job loss, one medical bill, one car breakdown, and the whole house of cards comes down. My name is James, and I spend way too much time thinking about the mechanics of building real wealth. If you are someone who works hard, earns decent money, but still feels like you are not really getting ahead, make sure you hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if any of this is resonating, because we are just getting warmed up. Sign number 4, high income, zero net worth. This one trips people up more than any other sign on this list, because we've been trained culturally, socially, psychologically to equate income with wealth. But here's what most people do not realize. Income is what comes in. Net worth is what stays. Here's a simple way to think about it. Net worth equals assets minus liabilities. That's it. What you own minus what you owe. And there are plenty of people pulling in 6 figures every year whose net worth is actually negative. They owe more than they own. They are technically broke, just a well-dressed, well-fed kind of broke. This is where it gets really interesting. A study from Wells Fargo found that 41% of affluent millennials, people with significant investable assets, are funding their lifestyle with credit cards and loans. Not because they have to, because they have convinced themselves they deserve it, and every dollar they spend performing wealth is a dollar that is not building it. The real scoreboard is not your salary, it's your balance sheet. And most fake rich people refuse to look at theirs. Sign number 5. They can spend it, but they cannot talk about it. You ever try to have an actual financial conversation with someone who's always flexing? Like, hey, what are you doing with your portfolio right now? Are you maxing out your Roth IRA? What do you think about index funds versus individual stocks? Watch what happens. Suddenly they've got somewhere to be. Or they go vague. Oh, I'm doing some things. Sure you are. Here's the thing. The truly wealthy can talk money because they understand it. They have studied it. They have made real decisions with it. They know what a PE ratio is. They have an actual investment thesis. The fake rich? They know how to spend. They know how to swipe. But ask them about a compound interest calculator or an index fund expense ratio, and you'll get a blank stare followed by a quick subject change. Financial literacy is a tell. People who have built real wealth almost always understand the mechanics, and people who are performing wealth almost never do. Sign number 6, impressive titles, invisible results. CEO of a company with no revenue. Founder of a brand with no customers. Director of operations for an LLC they registered last Tuesday. Look, I am all for entrepreneurship. I love that people are building things. But there is a very specific type of person who collects titles the way other people collect debt, and they use those titles as social currency to signal success that has not actually happened yet. Here is what most people do not realize. A title costs nothing. Results cost everything. And the fake rich have learned that most people will not ask follow-up questions if the title sounds impressive enough. Real success leaves evidence. Real wealth leaves a paper trail. If someone has to constantly remind you of their title, it is usually because the results are not doing the reminding for them. Sign number 7. Always chasing the next scheme. 1 month, it is crypto. Next month, it is NFTs. Then it is drop shipping. Then it is some multi-level thing they swear is different from the last one. Then it is options trading with money they cannot afford to lose. Here's the thing. The fake rich are addicted to the idea of a shortcut. Because if you can find the cheat code, the one thing that blows up overnight, you do not have to do the slow, boring, unsexy work of actually building wealth over time. But here's what most people do not realize. Real wealth is built like a tortoise, not a hare. Slow, steady, consistent, compounding over decades. And the people chasing every shiny new scheme are not building anything. They're just burning fuel and staying in place. The fastest way to spot a fake rich person is to ask them about their 5-year plan. If they cannot give you one, they probably do not have one. They are living in a perpetual present tense, always one more scheme away from the big break that never comes. Sign number 8. Social media is their financial report card. This one is almost clinical at this point. According to Wells Fargo, 34% of affluent millennials admit to lying or exaggerating about their finances on social media to appear more successful than they are. And 29% admit they have bought things they could not actually afford specifically to impress people online. Let that land for a second. Nearly 1 in 3 people you follow might be financially wrecking themselves for the approval of people they will never meet. Here is what most people do not realize. Social media has turned personal finance into a performance sport, and the fake rich are playing to win. But the scoreboard they are optimizing for has absolutely nothing to do with their actual financial health. The most dangerous thing about this sign is that it is contagious. You see it, you compare, you feel behind. And now you are spending money you do not have to keep up with someone who is also spending money they do not have to keep up with you. It's a race to the bottom, disguised as a highlight reel. Sign number 9. Their circle keeps them broke. Jim Rohn said it. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And here's the brutal financial application to that. If everyone in your circle is spending beyond their means, if every weekend is expensive dinners, bottle service, luxury trips, and nobody in the group is talking about investments, retirement, or building anything, that circle is not a social life. It is a financial liability. Here's the thing. The fake rich run in packs. They reinforce each other's spending habits. Nobody challenges the group. Nobody asks the uncomfortable questions. Nobody says, hey, should we really be dropping $2,000 on the table tonight? Because if one person pulls back, the whole performance starts to unravel. Real wealth builders tend to spend time with people who are honest about money, who talk about boring things like index funds and tax strategy, who celebrate compound interest instead of Instagram likes. The circle matters more than people want to admit. Sign number 10, no financial plan. Not even close. This is the one that ties everything together. The fake rich live in the present tense. They spend today's money on today's image and leave tomorrow completely exposed. No financial plan, no retirement account strategy, no goals, no timeline. Just vibes and credit card statements. Here is what most people do not realize. Every dollar you spend performing wealth for other people is a dollar you are stealing from your future self, and your future self cannot afford the loan. Real wealth is intentional. It has a blueprint. Where are you going? What is the number? What is the timeline? What are you cutting today so you can own tomorrow? And this is where it gets really interesting. The gap between fake rich and actually wealthy is not just about income. It is about intention. It is about clarity. It is about deciding that your financial future matters more than other people's perception of your present. Look, here is the truth. Most people will spend their entire lives building an image instead of building a life. They will arrive at 60 with a great Instagram grid and an empty retirement account. They will have receipts for everything they bought and nothing to show for it. But you do not have to be that person. You can opt out of the performance. You can stop spending to impress people who are not thinking about you anyway. You can start treating your net worth like the scoreboard it actually is. And you can begin building something real, something quiet, something that compounds over time and does not need a caption. The choice is yours. Are you building wealth or are you building an image? If this video helped you or shifted your outlook on what real wealth actually looks like, do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to hear this, because there is somebody in your life right now running this fake rich playbook, and they do not even know it. I'll see you on the next one.